Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Phoenix, Arizona, it's time for Phoenix Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Hello and welcome to Phoenix Business Radio, broadcasting live from the Max 6 Entrepreneurial Center right here in Tempe, Arizona, where we help build businesses and connect you with the right people. I feel so fortunate every day that I'm in this studio that I get to say that we connect you with the right people. We help build businesses, and today is no different. We have co-founder of mentumm, my new friend, Tom Healy. Welcome to the studio.
Glad to be here.
I'm excited that you're here. We were at the CEO retreat for Arizona Technology Council up in Sedona 3 weeks ago.
A couple weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, it hasn't been that long, and it wasn't any cooler necessarily.
No, the intention was you drive 2 hours north so that it's cooler, and it felt hotter and more humid. I was glad to get back to the valley.
Yeah, exactly. Although we did have a great time, and we had a chance to connect at one of the socials. I think it was Mark Sutter that introduced us. So shout out to Mark. We appreciate that introduction. And you are a member of the AZ Tech Council.
I am.
And I'm sure of the other professional organizations as well. So we'll have a chance to kind of dive in. But let's have you introduce yourself, Tom. Who are you as a business owner, a leader, an entrepreneur, author, and then, of course, the co-founder of this, I think it's fairly new, new platform called mentumm. So you've got an hour. I'm just going to sit back and listen.
Well, yeah, it's going to take an hour to get through all of it. But I'll spare you and the listeners the long version and give you the short version. I am a lifelong entrepreneur. So this is kind of all I've ever done. I started selling stuff on eBay when I was a teenager. It was completely illegal what I was doing. But I did it for a few years, and I got a cease and desist letter, and I stopped. I think I can talk about it now because it was long enough.
How can you? What were you doing?
So you're curious.
I am very true. What does eBay not allow?
Okay, so this is good. I'm going to date myself a little bit.
Hey, not a problem here.
Yeah, you'll understand. I recorded every episode of Saved by the Bell.
Oh my God.
Okay, every episode of Saved by the Bell on VHS tape. Okay, then I went through and I removed all of the commercials. Then I put them all in order. So what I created was a boxed set of every episode of Saved by the Bell on VHS tape in chronological
Illegal,
order.
but brilliant.
Okay, then my grandfather would, when they were on sale, buy me in bulk VHS tapes. So I would make box sets of them, and then my mom would pay for the shipping. So it was the greatest business in the world because I was stealing someone else's content. I had no overhead. And that was it. And I sold these box sets for like $100 over and over again for a few years.
And Saved by the Bell, come on.
It was a great,
I can't say that I really.
So I'm very good at Saved by the Bell trivia because when you actually had to do the double VCR recording thing, it's not like I had big equipment. They would always be playing.
You have to go through the whole thing.
6-hour tapes. I'd hit one and I'd go back and forth. Yeah. So that was it. And I got a cease and desist and I stopped. And I think it's been long enough. But that's what I did. And so I got this, entrepreneurial bug. The other thing that happened when I was in high school is I did not have a great relationship with my father. However, I had 2 adult men that were mentors to me. They both owned their own business. And so I looked at them and I said, okay, well, they're really nice people. They're really good husbands, really good fathers. They've got these businesses. They have freedom and flexibility. Yeah. And so I want to be like them when I grow up. And so I just had in my mind that somehow, some way, I'll figure out a way to be an entrepreneur.
So good.
So that was always in my head. That's why. And then when I graduated college, I decided I was going to write a book for college students and start speaking on college campuses. And that was because I was heavily involved as a student leader. So I went to college and I was just kind of a normal person, wasn't that involved in high school, didn't really have a path per se, knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but didn't really have any leadership experiences. And I got involved in a fraternity, and that led to a bunch of student leadership opportunities in different organizations. And I could feel myself growing and changing and gaining confidence. I was like, this is a tremendous life-changing, trajectory-changing experience. How cool would it be to be one of those speakers that comes to campus? Because we had them all the time. Some were really good, some weren't that good. But the ones that were good, you connected with them, you resonated with them, you got value from them. And I figured that would be a cool thing to do. And my approach to that, the book I wrote, the speaking that I was doing, it was not coming from a place of, oh, I'm really smart and I know it all and I'm going to tell you everything I do. It was simply saying, hey, there's a lot of things I wish I would have known when I was in your shoes. And there's things I did right. There's mistakes I made. But let me share those experiences with you. Let me do a assessment of thousands of people what they would do differently if they were in their 20s, what they learned from their 20s. So I aggregated all that data, and then I sprinkled in some stories of here's what Oprah did, here's what Jeff Bezos did,
Yeah.
famous people that did something significant in their 20s that we could learn from. So all of that got me out on the speaking circuit and opened up a lot of opportunities for speaking and consulting, both in higher ed and then in with companies as well, because I had business leaders saying to me, okay, you're speaking to all these students and you kind of understand what makes them tick. And we're having a really hard time recruiting, developing, retaining younger people inside
Mhm.
our organization. Can you help? And I said, yeah, sure. And I started getting involved in doing that as well. So I've really, for my entire professional career, I've been both working with companies and then in higher ed. And I'm still involved in both. I have a company called LaunchPoint, where we provide coursework to over 100 college campuses across the United States. And those are topics such as leadership development and diversity, equity, and inclusion, mental health, sexual violence prevention, relevant topics where campuses say, hey, we need to provide this either because we're required to or we'd like to. And so they use our content to do that. And then all of that led me to, as I was scaling that online education company, to start working here locally with entrepreneurs. And so that's kind of the other side of things. And that's where I met my business partner, Joe, randomly on a golf course about 6 years ago. And he was working with gritty entrepreneurs here locally, typically between about 25 to 250 employees. So the gritty small to medium sized business organization. So he was working with CEOs and founders one-on-one, putting them into groups. And I'm like, I've been a part of groups like that here locally. I've spoken to groups like that. I would like to do that as well. So him and I formed a business partnership, and we started working with businesses here locally, working on strategy, putting them into groups, working with them one-on-one. And our intent pre-COVID was just to continue scaling that. We had 2 really nice groups. We wanted to get to 6 groups, and then boom, COVID hits.
Right.
So we ended up working with a lot of executive coaches during the early stages of COVID. And they were people that approached us saying, look, I'm a really good coach and I know how to coach and I've got these great experiences. However, I'm really struggling with the business side of coaching, meaning how do I craft my personal brand? How do I market myself on LinkedIn? How do I coach people virtually? Do I put them into groups? Do I work with them one-on-one? How do I price this? Do I work deeply inside of one company or do I work with people at all different companies and a million other things? But what we realized is there wasn't a lot of great resources for people to grow the business side of their coaching practice. So we built a community of about 75 of them who we work with in a variety of capacities: marketing support, thought leadership, some coaching, putting them into their own groups. And in the course of interviewing over 1,200 executive coaches,
From 1,200 to
yes, to
75.
build that
Yeah.
group, we learned a lot about that industry. And we learned one big thing was happening. And we were hearing this from our coaches, and we were hearing this also from the businesses we were working with here locally. And that was some variation of, hey, the C-suite, we're cool. Meaning, hey, we've got great coaching, we've got our strategy, we've got our EOS lined up. We're doing all these things and we're super comfortable and confident and everything's good. However, we've got this really big challenge. And this challenge is we've got all these younger managers and supervisors and department heads that are new to leadership and maybe don't have the training and the experience that I have as the owner of the company. And we're now at a size and scale of organization where I can't do all of that coaching and mentorship myself.
Mhm.
So I need help. And we kept hearing that. And my partner and I just kind of nodded our heads and said, okay, good luck. That's not what we do. So hopefully you find someone. And then our coaches started coming to us saying, hey, I'm working with all these companies and they're asking me to work with some of their, high potential emerging leaders, same story. And we went, geez, there's something
right
there.
here.
There is
Yeah.
a massive need for this. Yeah. So about a year ago, we decided we need to address this. And we took our incredible coaches that are incredible at what they do. We put them onto a piece of software, and then we go into organizations and say, give your people access to incredible high level coaching at a reasonable monthly investment. They will absolutely perform better for you. And They will enjoy the fact that this is someone outside of the organization. So it's a safe, confidential conversation. And it's someone that they choose, meaning I want to work with someone that looks like me or has experiences like me or someone that understands my industry or someone that just looks like a friendly person that I'd like to confide in or someone that has a hobby of mine. Whatever the reason is, it's someone that they're able to open up and confide in, which, as you know, makes for a much better coaching experience. So that should set the table
Yeah, it's a
for kind
great
of my backstory and
yeah.
what I'm up to. Yeah.
It's exciting, and so many different aspects of your career lead to this opportunity. So when I get to decide on mentumm, who I do get to decide, right? I'm the employee,
hmm
and I'm showing potential, and the team that's leading me says, "Hey, we'd like to provide you this opportunity." They're not picking my mentor for me necessarily. I get to choose
Correct.
my coach.
Yep.
I love that.
Yeah, and again, the two big reasons for that, and we get pushback. Okay, we get companies that say, "Ugh, I want to pick the coaches," and we really don't like that. The other thing that we hear a lot is, "Well, I want to know what's going on in those sessions." Another thing we hear often is, "Well, what if they just talk about personal stuff the entire time?" So the reality is if you want to spy on your employees, we're not a good fit for you.
Right.
If you are concerned about them spending some or all of their coaching time talking about personal issues, you're also not a good fit for us because a smart business owner, a smart CEO understands that personal and professional all blend together. And if there are personal issues that we're navigating, we can't focus at work. And
Correct.
if we can't focus and we can't engage, we absolutely will not perform. And that's the big issue. You know, you hear all these buzzwords, quiet quitting and this and that. And at the end of the day, the crisis we have right now in this country is around engagement. It's an engagement crisis. The
Mhm.
engagement is at a historic low. People are not engaged in work. And if you're not engaged,
Or their own lives often.
yeah.
With their,
And so I say all that to say that who cares what someone is talking to a coach about?
right.
The point is there are issues, challenges, roadblocks, impediments that are preventing someone from operating at 100% capacity. They're not engaged for whatever reason. Until they solve that, they can't perform. And if it's especially on the personal side, if someone's going through a tough breakup or they just moved to a new city and they're experiencing a lot of loneliness or they're dealing with an aging parent who's having health issues, if those issues are preventing them from being able to focus at work, you're not getting the best of them. So until they're able to talk to someone, they can't perform. And most importantly, these are issues that someone typically will not, rarely will, bring to their employer.
And if they do, employers often aren't really on the very receptive end of trying to help them navigate that
Sure.
because it feels like it's out of context for what they're doing. However, say a company does provide the services through mentumm, and regardless of what I'm talking to my coach about, if I know that my employer cares about me and my coach is helping me be a better version of myself, then that loyalty factor, that opportunity to say, I want to stay with company XYZ because they've invested in me
Yeah.
and I'm getting a handle on the things that I need to handle.
Yeah, and by no means am I going to tell you that what we do or what anyone else does is going to solve every problem. But
Right.
we look at things in terms of you want to attract the right people,
Yep.
you want to keep them longer, you want them to be very engaged, and you want them to perform at a high level. And we feel that if you're providing executive coaching to someone, they're more likely to want to work there. They're going to probably stay longer because your competitor may not offer that to them. They're going to be more engaged in what they do because they have a development opportunity that is all about them, which is the important thing here. And then they're ultimately going to perform better because they are more engaged. And that's a big thing. So, one of my big pet peeves is there is an incredible amount of time and money that's wasted on learning and development. Most of it's very nice and it's better than nothing. But at the end of the day, I look at learning and development and I say there's only one reason to do it, which is you want to change people's behavior. You want them to do better. You want them to learn. You want them to create a new habit. You want them to solve a problem better. Well, if you're not changing someone's behavior, then what is the point? Well, there is no point. You're just wasting your time. You're wasting your money. You're wasting their time. They know it. So a lot of the stuff, especially large companies, they just throw this stuff. I use the analogy of like throwing a life raft at them, like, oh, here you go.
The one-time thing, "Hey, come
Yeah,
to this lunch and learn," or "Come to
yeah,
this webinar,"
it's
or
not
whatever it is.
effective, and they don't pay attention. And here's the thing. I mean, think about this. You now have virtually all of us. I say younger people, but really all of us. We're now using products that are based around us. So Netflix has our list, it has
Mhm.
our recommendations, and we choose on Facebook or Instagram, on Twitter, who we want to follow, who we want to engage with. We're in control of all these things, and it's all about us, and we can customize our own experience. So from a learning and development standpoint, what do you think is going to happen if that same person that can customize everything else in their life from a content standpoint, you're giving them something that is not specific to them? It's
Mhm.
not even specific to your industry. It's just cookie cutter stuff. It's not going to be effective because they are not going to be able to connect with it because it's not about them. That's why one-on-one coaching, it's all about them. It's their issues, it's their problems, it's their opportunities. The engagement level and the impact is far greater. The other thing too with, kind of the cookie cutter learning development stuff is, and I just posted about this week on LinkedIn, you do a search on Google of how to be a good leader. There's billions of pieces of content that are all free and in the public domain. And you go on YouTube and there's 326 million videos. And these are great TED Talks. They're Harvard courses. They're MIT courses that are for free in the public domain. So why do you, I mean, if someone wants to learn, they'll be able to learn. If you're going to provide learning and development, it's got to be specific to them and it's going to be very, very deep and meaningful. It just can't be more content that already exists.
And continuous,
Absolutely.
right? It's not just a one-time thing. It's holding somebody accountable,
Mhm.
and again, very personal for them, whatever that
Yeah.
is, whether it's business related or it's home or a combination of. And how long has Mentum been around? A little over a year?
Yeah, I mean, this hit our radar a year ago, which was, this problem inside of companies. And so built the MVP from a software standpoint. We already had the relationship with the incredible
Yeah, that's
coaches.
what
They
you
had
said.
already been vetted and we had a great relationship with them. And yeah, so we're off and running, and I mean it's been very well received. I knock on wood, everyone that's joined the platform, every organization is still with us.
So
They're
good.
happy.
Yeah.
They're along for the journey. It's funny because sometimes we tend to want to act like we've been around forever and oh, we're great and we have everything figured out and you want to look like a really big company. And I've listened to some really smart, successful entrepreneurs here locally that have said some variation of, when we started this business or we built this software, we were very open and transparent with our initial
I
customers
appreciate
that
that.
they were an initial customer and they loved that
Yep.
and they gave us feedback and they would never cancel that relationship or stop using us because they felt a loyalty to us and they wanted to be along for the journey. So I've really embraced that. And everyone we work with knows the story. They know what we're trying to build. They know that they're not going to be blown away by our technology, but we're not a tech driven company. We're a people driven company that
Relationship. Yeah.
uses software. Yeah. So we've had some great conversations and great relationships with the organizations we're working with. But I'm glad I heard that a number of times from some really smart, successful people because I've taken it to heart and it's absolutely been the right decision.
Hmm.
And really listening to those organizations. What do you like? What don't you like? What do you want us to do? What's on the punch list? And then they feel like they're part of the team where they're helping drive what the future of our platform
Yeah.
looks like.
Good. Talk to us a little bit more about the coaches. So you said you had a pool originally of about 1,500. Now you've narrowed it down to 75 vetted coaches. Are you growing? And then who is a good fit? Are these folks who only work for Mentum or do they have practices on their own? Tell us a little bit about the coach.
Yes, they all have private practices. They coach for a living, but our coaches look a little different than maybe other platforms, or the coach that you may have in mind or a coach that you've worked with in the past. There's a couple things that are kind of non-negotiables for us, and the first one's a little silly, but I mean it when I say it. They're really nice people. They are just,
Why is that silly?
well,
That
because
sounds pretty paramount to me.
yeah, and I don't know, maybe I put it on the website and then it's like, yeah, should we put that on? Well, it's the truth. And they're just nice people. They're just really, really rock
Well, no one
solid
wants to go get
human
coached by
beings.
the asshole.
Yep. And they're not there's no ego. They're not a jerk. They don't have this inflated view of themselves. They're just really good people. They have a passion for coaching. So they got into coaching for the right reasons. It wasn't, oh, well, I'm laid off and I don't know what to do, so I'll go spend the next couple weeks getting a coaching certification and call myself a coach. These are people that have been in the C-suite, they've run organizations, they've led teams, they've been in the trenches, they have wins, they have great experiences. So very, very high level, but they have a passion for coaching. They love helping people, and they've been doing it in their entire career, even if they're quote unquote new to coaching. The last thing that's important too, and there's a lot of people and a lot of philosophy out there around what coaching is and isn't. And I think that coaching, mentorship, they mean different things to different people. There's different ways to go about them. There's absolutely no right or wrong. I will tell you that our philosophy and the philosophy of our coaches and what we know that the organizations we work with want is what I would call very action-oriented coaching. Meaning, I'm not going to spend an hour asking you, how do you feel? Why do you feel that way? Why do you think you feel that way? Why do you think that you feel that you think that, and we do that for an hour and it's, okay, session's up. It's very driven on, okay, these are the things that you said you were going to do. Did you do them?
Yeah.
If not, why? Okay.
And what's your next deadline?
And what's your and what are the things you're going to do between now and the next time we talk?
Good.
And that happens at the tail end of the session. The primary purpose of the session is not for the coach to pontificate. It's not to tell the same stories and anecdotes over and over again. It's to look at the person they're coaching and go, how can I help you today? What's on your mind? What's keeping you up at night? What decisions do you have to make? And really figuring out those issues. So it's all about them. But yeah, we're very proud of the quality of the coaches, and that's tough to convey. You can put it on a website, you can tell it over and over again, but at the end of the day, it can be challenging. So we, just from a marketing, branding, website standpoint, we do everything we can to really show those men and women off because they're incredible. Here are their experiences. Here's their professionalism. Here's the wins they've experienced. And then inside the software, we're continuing to find ways to really highlight what they do, and personally and professionally. So what are your hobbies? What are your accomplishments? Let's see the bio. Let's see the LinkedIn page. Let's have a big friendly picture so people can see how warm and friendly you are. Links to your social media, just anything we can do to say these people are incredible and your team will absolutely benefit from being around them and working with them each month.
And are you looking to add more coaches?
We are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have about 75 on the platform. We have another, I would say 75 or so queued up. We did not put them on the platform because we didn't want people to get angry if there weren't opportunities for them. So we said, okay, hold off. But we're always looking for people and proactively. I mean, anytime one of our coaches or an organization we work with says, hey, there's someone I'd like you to connect. We'll spend a half hour with them. We'll get to know them. We'll have them submit, we don't call it an application, but submit their information.
Sure.
And we cross-reference a number of different things. And a lot of it's just gut feel. I mean, we just know who is a fit for the organizations we're working with and who isn't.
What is a coaching culture? Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Great question. So in very, very simplistic terms, what we found was there's something very specific that all companies want. They want results. Now, results are different to every organization. Sometimes it's based on sales. Sometimes a nonprofit may say it's based on meals served, or a membership community may say it's based on members. So everyone has different metrics. But at the end of the day, every organization that we're working with is like, well, here's how we measure success. And we're trying to grow those numbers, right? We want to impact more people, sell more widgets, feed more people, whatever it is that we do. Okay. That's one side of the equation. The other side of the equation is, well, what do high performing people want? Yes, they want money. Yes, they want to do meaningful work. But what we have found is that they want to get better. They want to develop. So the coaching culture is the marriage of those two things, meaning you want people to perform better. People want to get better. So what is the best way for both sides to get what they want? It's through a ton of one-on-one coaching conversations. It's not a motivational speaker. It's not training and onboarding. It's not all reading a book and discussing it. It's deep one-on-one work, because I hate to say this to all my fellow entrepreneurs out there, but your team doesn't really care about you and your family or the company. They care about themselves, and that's perfectly okay. We're all selfish. We're all first and foremost loyal to ourselves, our family, the people that are important to us, and what we're trying to accomplish. So I see many companies bend over backwards trying to get their people to care about those things. And not that you can't love the culture of your company and take pride in what you do, but the best way to get people to perform at a very, very high level, which allows you to achieve the business results you want, is by helping them be motivated themselves. So what matters to you? What's important to you? Where do you want to go? How many companies out there don't discuss their personal and professional future with their team? How many don't do deep development? So I say all that to say that a coaching culture is really driving performance, and we drive performance one-on-one. And it's tough. It'd be a lot easier to bring in a speaker or bring in online education, or, hey, we have a great 2-week training program to kick off your employment here. And okay, we're done.
Well,
now
then you
go.
think you're checking the box, and
Well,
yet
and
there isn't any progress.
That's what most of this is. It's checking a box.
So in comparison, I think it's important to point out that some of these potential C-level executive leaders who are now middle managers, whatever, if they're aggressive and they are in personal development and they have a growth mindset, they are likely seeking a coach on their own and paying for it, and doing what they can to grow. But that's the one-off. So what you're really talking about is a culture within an organization that supports growth and personal and professional development. The culture becomes, look, we care about you, we care about us, and we want to lift everybody up as we look to achieve these goals and make these accomplishments. And so now the conversations, don't they start to become a little bit different? Because, hey, are you using mentumm? I'm guessing that's probably how the conversation goes. Hey, I was talking to my coach and XYZ. Oh, yeah, you got a coach. Who's your coach? It's so-and-so through mentumm. Yeah, I haven't tried that yet. And now, now the conversations are rich and engaging around how are we all individually benefiting from these experiences, and sharing that across the water cooler, across the conversation, the parking lot, because everybody is being challenged to be a better version of themselves.
And I'll add to that. What happens is, most organizations, let's say you have 100 employees, you're not bringing in coaching for all 100.
Right.
What you're doing, though, is you're investing in those key people that are in a position of management.
Right.
Well, Karen, what do you think happens when you receive great coaching every month? You learn a coaching framework.
Yep.
You learn the value of coaching. Now you have 8 people that work for you that are on your team. And instead of having those stupid, boring, pointless management conversations where we're reviewing numbers, you're now a coach, not just a manager. Well, what do you think those 8 people on your team want? They want to get better. They want to have a manager that cares about them, that's helping them achieve their personal and professional goals, that's being more of a mentor and less of a boss. So by providing key people inside an organization with coaching, they then learn that framework to be able to do the same for the people they manage, because most managers out there are not good at being a manager. They were a fantastic salesperson.
They were accidental managers.
They got promoted because we're growing like crazy, or their manager left, or whatever the case is. They got thrown into that role and they've had no formal leadership training. So the coaching that they're receiving allows them to understand what coaching is and then be able to do that for their team.
Yeah, brilliant. How does a company get connected with mentumm and get started? What does that look like?
So the first thing we do, and this is a horrible idea from a business development standpoint, but it works well for us, so we continue to do it. We give a company some homework. And what that homework is they need to distribute an engagement assessment to their people. And here's the reason. So we get introduced to a company and we meet with that company. And we sit there with the founder of the company who's grown it, and they tell us how they started in their garage and now they have 80 people and they're killing it and everything's great and they're having some pain points. And so we ask questions and we ask them about, their team and their key leaders. And all of that discovery is great. And it's better than nothing. But at the end of the day, do we really know what's going on? Does that person we're talking to really know what's in the head and the hearts of their 80 employees? Probably not. So the conversation we're having is okay, and maybe we can sell them on the idea of coaching, but we kind of hate doing that. What we like is we like them taking that engagement assessment, having all their people do it. We have 25 data points that we measure, and then we can have a real conversation. So that's the first thing we do. And I mean, if we don't end up working together, it's still of tremendous value to the organization because they're learning insights that they have no idea about. And some of it may be confirming what they already know. Some of it may be shocking, but who wouldn't want to know what percentage of their team is thinking about leaving over the next 12 months? Who wouldn't want to know how their culture is being perceived or how valued the managers inside the organization are, or if they would actually recommend the organization to their friends and family? So we provide all that, and that leads to a much better conversation. So long-winded way of saying the first thing we do anytime we talk to an organization is we have their team take that engagement assessment so that we can have a very, very deep conversation. We can provide them with a great deal of insights. Obviously, we're going to give them recommendations based on our experience. You know, my partner and I have both spent decades in the learning and development, leadership development space. So if nothing else, we'll probably give you a few good ideas, hopefully. And then obviously, there's probably going to be an opportunity for something that we do. And we'll make that recommendation and they can say yes or no. But that's our process. And it all starts with that engagement assessment because it will tell the owner, CEO, founder of the company so many things that they're just not aware of. And maybe you're aware of it when you have 12 employees and you can look out your window and see everything and you know their spouses' names and you know their pets' names and you know everything about them and you have your hand on the pulse of things. There just gets to be a point where that's no longer feasible. And some of it's just because of remote work. Some of it's because of the size of the organization, right? But it just gets to a point where, yeah, I really don't know what's going on here. I think I know, and I hear what people say to me and what they tell me when I'm around.
I hope it's true.
Yeah, I hope it's true, but you just don't know. And so we love doing that. And again, it leads to some really, really good conversations.
I love it. So are there any industries or verticals that you're looking to have more introductions to because you know that this is a good fit? And maybe it's not industry specific. Clearly you're agnostic, but who can we help get you in front of?
So it is completely dependent on the personality of the leader of the organization, meaning they have to see value in coaching. They have to really genuinely care about their people. Not just check a box, but I actually want them to get better. They have to be willing to relinquish control, meaning other people are going to be talking to your team and they're going to be talking about things that you're absolutely not going to be privy to. And we are not going to report back to you exactly what was said.
Right.
And you have to be okay with that. So I'm sure that eliminates 50, 60, 80% of the CEOs out there, because most of them are not receptive to coaching, and most of you, right? I mean, so
yes,
so it's a little. I won't say it's a needle in a haystack. That's a little dramatic, but it's really a certain personality of leader that is a good fit for us.
And I'm thinking, correct me if I'm wrong, I've noticed that COVID has opened the gate a little bit more, or the threshold for more leaders and business owners taking a look at how they're leading, their capacity to lead, and their own awareness around professional development and where there are blind spots. And so what I've experienced just in the conversations we've had here and the executive leaders that I coach, folks are saying, I think I've been doing it wrong, or I know there's a better way to do this. I just don't know how to do it. And so mentumm gets to come in and help support that.
Yeah. And step one is that person that you're describing, they have to get it. They have to see value in coaching. They have to receive coaching.
Yes.
So all of that has to happen.
And I believe it. I guess my point is, I see, and I'm seeing more and more leaders saying, okay, there is a better way to do this.
Yes. now the next stage is they have to say, I want to provide this for my team. The issue we run into often is I have an executive coach as the CEO of the company, and she's not cheap. She's really, really good, but she's not cheap. And she's really, really busy. So she doesn't have the time to coach my 15 department heads. And even if she had the time, I can't afford her. And so it kind of ends there. So what we have to do, why I'm sitting here today, why I will speak and do workshops and do engagement assessments till I'm blue in the face, is because we have to tell our story that, hey, you actually can provide incredible executive coaching to keep people inside your organization at a very, very affordable investment. I mean, it's $250 a month. It's nothing. So
per employee,
per month. So, you're paying someone a nice salary. That salary's probably gone up over the past few years.
Yeah.
And how do I protect that investment? How do I get the most out of that investment? I mean, what we're saying is for $3,000 a year, you can get that person that's making six figures perform better. Oh, and it's not just them that's going to perform better. You're teaching them a coaching framework so they can get the best out of the six people that they manage.
Right.
So the effect of it relative to the investment, I mean, it's nothing.
There's a ripple effect.
But we have to tell that story because people are not Googling us or something like us.
And yet I know they're looking.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But we have to, that's the fun game I'm playing.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm here. And I think that, just in terms of business development in general, things that worked 5 years ago no longer work. You know, the whole, hey, I'm going to send a nice, warm, friendly message on LinkedIn explaining what I do to the right person, and they're going to respond and we're going to have a cup of coffee. Doesn't happen anymore. The emails to LinkedIn. And I did that for years and I met some incredible people.
Yeah.
Yes. And it was fantastic. But COVID ruined that for everyone because it's just absolutely filled with garbage out there. So the good people that are well-intentioned and have a great product or service and are really, really nice people, they can't break through that. So you have to do other things.
There's so much other noise.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but it's the reality is you have to do the things that people are not willing to do.
Right.
And that's speak for an hour for free. It's write a book. It's get on podcast. It's get away from your computer, get out there in the community. But not everyone's willing to do that, either because of laziness or because they're afraid to, or because they're so busy they can't, which we all laugh at, but, for whatever reason. Yeah. So I think those of us that are willing to put in the work will be able to tell our story and be able to connect with the right people in the community.
Yeah. Nice segue using the word book. Talk
okay.
about the book. So we've got creating a coaching culture, why smart companies leverage one-on-one coaching and how it drives better performance. I'm sure we covered a lot of this, but talk a little bit about the book and how people get a hold of it. Who is it for? Yeah,
well, first of all, if you want a copy of the book, I will be happy to drop one in the mail for you. So please do not go on to Amazon and buy it. It's the digital copy and the audio copy are free on our website, mentumm.com. But if you'd like the actual paperback, I'm happy to send it. Just hit me on LinkedIn.
And I've got a second copy. So.
Yeah.
Good.
But the intent of the book was hyper-focused and something you can sit by the pool for an hour and read on a Saturday. So it's that short book form on purpose. We could have written a long book and patted ourselves on the back, but nobody would have read it because people are busy. So you can knock it out in an hour, and it really talks about what coaching is, what a coaching culture is, how to actually coach someone, how to implement coaching inside your organization, and how to measure the ROI. And it's essentially
all the things I'm looking for.
Yeah, it's the DIY. I mean, that's really, my partner and I were just talking about this morning, but it's kind of, we do that engagement assessment for a company, and really there's like three paths. One is DIY, and here's the book. I mean, we've given you everything you need to know to do this yourself, and we didn't hold back things, right? Or they can say, hey, come in and help us develop a coaching culture and teach our team how to coach. Or the third thing, which we like when they do, and we believe is of tremendous value, is we're actually going to engage some of your coaches to work with our team and then have them coach the people underneath them. So, but the book is intended for you to be able to do everything on your own. Yeah. But we're really proud of it. I mean, it's to the point, it's straightforward, it's, conversational and folksy. We weren't trying to jam a bunch of big fancy buzzwords in there. It's just plain English, and it's been really well received so far. And again, everything you need to know is in there to be able to do. Where you would leverage us is when you say, okay, well, these 15 people, I want to give them the best possible coaching. I want it to be external from the company so they can have that safe, confidential conversation and be able to take ownership over it. Because, so I'll tell you what happens. And we work with a lot of companies that say, I'm gonna bring a coach in, and maybe it's my coach to work with my people. And that's absolutely better than nothing. So I don't want to say it's bad or it's a waste of time or anything else, but I will tell you that there are challenges with that. The two big challenges being, and this is what we hear from employees. This isn't, this is absolutely what happens. First of all, is I was forced to work with a coach. Yes. And I would have never chose to work with him if I had a choice, but this is who I was assigned. He may or may not understand my industry. We may or may not connect. It may or may not be a personality fit, but I don't care because I'm not even going to give it a chance because I didn't get to pick it. So it's just kind of that cross my arms and play defense. And the coaching sessions are terrible. Not only are they terrible for the employee, but they're also terrible for the coach because the coach doesn't want to talk to somebody that doesn't want to talk to him.
It's not benefiting the company.
And that
Nobody.
Yes, that often happens. And then the other piece of it is, and we see this a lot where the CEO of the company says, I've been working with Bob for 10 years now. Bob's like family to me. He is the greatest coach in the entire world. He has radically transformed me as a person and a professional, and I'm giving the gift of Bob to all of you. Well, you know what they're thinking? I can't tell this guy a damn thing because it's going to get back to the owner of the company because they're so close. So I can't go to Bob, the business coach, and say, hey, Bob, my marriage is falling apart and I haven't focused on work in a couple months and I don't even know if I want to be here because that'll get brought back. So therefore, I'm not having an open, safe, confidential dialogue. Therefore, we're just kind of playing a little game right here. We're surface level. So again, it's not that there's no value in bringing in an external coach. It's just that there are two major issues with that. And that's why we like the idea of let your team pick who they want to work with and accept the fact that you really aren't going to know what happens in those conversations. That being said, there's two things we can do for the company to prove out the value of the coaching.
Yeah, speak to
Number
that.
one is that engagement assessment I mentioned. We do pulse checks. So the idea being is that every 90 days, we can go back and we can look at progress we've made. So, hey, you invested in coaching. Those people are coaching other people. If it's not helping with employee engagement, then that's a big problem, but it will. So we like to do those pulse checks and where are we improving, where are some areas that we need to continue to tweak. And that's just all a value add that we're doing for the organization. But the other piece of things is that we put it on the company to say, what are you looking for out of the coaching? Is it selling more widgets? Is it better employee retention? Is it you want people to get along better? I mean, these are all things we hear. Hey, we just want internal communication to be better. And it's if you can help solve that. We have CEOs that say, I want half the stuff that comes to my desk to not come to my desk, meaning I just want them to talk to a coach. And when they come to me, don't come to me with a problem, come to me with a couple potential solutions and let's decide it together. So we like to measure what's important to them. And I think one of the flaws in a lot of the other coaching platforms out there, and I guess if you're selling to a big Fortune 500 company, then this stuff all sounds great. But what they do is they build all this assessment into their software. And we know coaching satisfaction, we know all that stuff. But who cares? And what I mean by that is at the end of the day, you brought in coaching because you wanted to achieve one or a couple performance results. So let's actually measure those.
Right.
And those are internal metrics to you. So it's not, oh, I want my people to, like their coach. I want my people to see value in the coach. That stuff's all wonderful and we can provide all that. But what I want to know is in 12 months of coaching, your 10 sales managers, did you retain them? Did they perform better? Did their teams perform better? That's all that matters. And so we put it on the employer to figure out what matters to them. And I think that makes a big difference.
So good. Wow. Packed, jam-packed, lots of great stuff.
I love this stuff.
Of course you do.
It's interesting because I used to think of my professional career as being like all these different random things. And then,
it culminates, doesn't it?
But it all has a very common theme, which is around this learning and development space. And, my philosophy is that any learning, any speaker, any workshop, anything should change somebody's behavior. And if it doesn't, then it didn't work. So, I've been around a lot of speakers over the years. And my whole thing with speakers is if you're not bringing in a speaker to change people's behavior, then just bring in a band or a comedian
The
and entertain them. Yeah, it'll be cheaper and it'll be
and
better.
more fun.
Yeah. So it's like, if you're going to bring in a speaker to your organization that is not going to change people's behavior, and in a few days later, everybody's going to forget what the guy even talked about, well, then what's the point? Just bring in a kick-ass local band that can entertain everyone, and they can post it on Instagram and talk about what a fun place it is to work. That'll be a lot better.
Yeah.
But if you're going to bring in education, whether it's online, in-person, workshops, speaking, whatever it might be, how do you change people's behavior? And the other thing too is the only way that it actually sticks is if they can immediately apply it. And that's what's great about coaching is you're coaching me. We have a coaching session. You tell me some specific things I need to do. I agree on those. I go and do them, right? Or you help me navigate a conflict with a coworker, and I go and I navigate that successfully. And I learn from that. But that idea of we set the stage for some things I have to do, I go and do them, that's growth. You lecturing me for an hour doesn't stick.
Yeah.
I forget what you even told me a week later.
And the additional layer of that mentumm coaches provide is that then we're coming back again and we're, how did that go? What did you learn?
Yeah.
What was the impact? What could you do differently next time?
And
what's the next set of goals that you've got, and what are the steps to get there?
And there's a million studies out there. When you commit to a goal and you write it down, you're exponentially more likely to accomplish it. And if someone's going to ask you if you did it 30 days later, you're exponentially more likely to accomplish it as well. So yeah, the old-fashioned goal setting and accountability, it still works.
Yeah, that part hasn't gone away.
No. And we hear that a lot too. And that's, organizations say to us, hey, we have a huge accountability problem. Meaning we say we're going to do things, and we sit in our meetings and we say we're going to do this and we say we're going to do that. And, everyone's really good at stating goals, but we're not driving execution through accountability. So that's a big piece of, not that I would want to market ourselves as being, external accountability partners, but we are. And I guess if I hear it enough, then maybe I need to tweak some copy on our website. But I mean, that's not something that I would think to lead with. But gosh, the more companies I talk to,
that's what they're saying.
The $250 a month is worth it if you can go to our key people and just drive accountability. If nothing else, just make sure they do the things they committed to doing.
Right.
And that they committed to in our quarterly meetings or our monthly meetings, or they're meeting with their supervisor, or, we have all these great metrics that we're trying to measure each other by, and we say we're going to do all these things, but they had someone externally holding them accountable to it, there'd be a lot of value in it.
Yeah.
That's a big problem.
Yeah. Well, and when you guys are positioned to help solve. Yeah. Tell us again how folks can find you. You're on LinkedIn.
I'm on LinkedIn a lot. That's the best place to find me because, my contact information's on there, and you can send me a direct message if there's anything I can do to help you. I publish a lot of content that's related to this stuff. So I, try once or twice a week to put something meaningful, not the fluffy stuff, but the real meaningful stuff that it's meaningful if it disrupts and annoys certain people. So and I don't mean to be provocative.
I don't set out to do that.
Yeah, I don't mean to be provocative. I don't want to push buttons, but I know I say things that there's people that look at and they disagree with, and good. I mean,
then they're not.
Yeah, if all you're going to do is if all you're going to do is put common sense stuff that everyone can agree with, then nobody's going to learn from that.
Yeah.
So I like to talk about what's wrong with L&D and how to build a coaching culture. So LinkedIn's great. Tom Healy, Healy. If you want a copy of the book, send me your address. If you're close enough, I'll drop it off in person.
Hand deliver like I got.
I'm doing a lot more in-person stuff. And I didn't do any in-person stuff for a few years, not just because I think Zoom created a lot of horrible habits.
Yeah.
And it was, I can just, talk to 10 people a day on Zoom and I don't have to leave. And, this is great. But you're not building deep, meaningful relationships.
Right.
You often forget those conversations happened a week later.
Yep.
What did I talk to her about again? So I love the in-person stuff, and a lot of cups of coffee, a lot of in-person meetings.
Good.
We have clients all over the country. We will continue to. That being said, my personal focus on scaling the business is working with local companies.
Good.
I want to work with founder-led, gritty, entrepreneurial companies with really, really nice people leading them that
Mhm.
care about their people and want to develop them. And, we can have a great conversation and do a lot of good for them.
So good. And Mentum is
Yes.
mentumm.com.
Yes.
Very good. So great to
Thanks
get
for
to know you
having me.
better. I'm thrilled. It was just really great to meet you at the CEO retreat
Yeah.
in Sedona and just quickly kind of get a feel for what you're doing, and then to have a deeper dive today was not only meaningful but also very inspirational and necessary.
Yeah.
So
Look
we're
forward
happy to
to
have.
continuing the conversation
Yeah.
and getting to know you better. And yeah, appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. You've been listening to Phoenix Business Radio, broadcasting live from the Max 6 Entrepreneurial Center right here in Tempe, Arizona. Some media leans left, some lean right, and we lean business. Until next time, I'm Karen Nowicki. Thanks for listening.